Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This week's show, we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Kowloon Generic Romance Season 1, Episode 5. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we immediately pick up where the last episode left off with Kudo saying, "Oh, I'm the one that killed Kujirai," and then he immediately goes like, "But what if I did say that?" And it's kind of a jokey thing. But like, the question is like, because my immediate thought was, I didn't think he killed her, but I thought like he blamed himself, and maybe he still does. Like it is. I mean, that's the easy way to disguise trauma and pain is by laughing. And afterwards, I cannot remember what it was that Reiko says in that moment. She says something in the moment that catches Kudo off guard, and then she thinks about it later on, where she's like, I've only ever seen that Kudo make that face one time, and it's when she put on those clip-on earrings, and it's like that look on his face, and like this, like the bittersweet sadness of her saying like, she's like, I know it's weird, but I'm happy about it, because she's like, I know that's a face only I've seen. Even Kujirai B never saw that face. He might be making that face because of Kujirai B, but he never made that face to her. So it is something that is mine. And for her, it's like, I want to see sides of Kudo that no one else knows, even if it comes with a painful truth that I have to accept. But it's still like, I want to know him in a way that like because the whole thing of there's so much of Kudo that is already Kujirai B's, where she got to experience so much this first times and all this. So like a lot of even the way he looks at her is so tied to Kujirai B. So it's like to have something with you that is unique to me, that only I see this side of you, only I know this about you. There's something, you're able to kind of possess it in a way that no one else can, which, like I said, there's a bittersweetness to that, because obviously Yao Mei's not too much of a fan of Kudo, because she's like, he probably did murder her. The fact of the matter is, like, I mean, staying in Kowloon, coming back to the scene of the crime sounds like something that sociopath would do. But Kujirai doesn't believe him. Like, Reiko's like, no, because she's like, if he did, she's like, he wouldn't have that look on his face. Because for her, it's like, that doesn't look like the look of a face on someone who did something terrible to someone they love. It's someone that's sad because the person they care about in this world, it's gone. And so later on, Kujirai ends up reading a book. There's interestingly enough, and I think that's so fascinating, that Kujirai B has like her apartment. It like has a whole bunch of detective stories, and she grabs one and starts reading it a little bit, which is interesting because when you look at like the manifestation, like kind of almost like the story come to life, we see these silhouettes which, strangely enough, look like Kudo and Kujirai, and it's like Kudo choking her, but it's not. They're silhouettes. You can't really tell if it's meant to be them, like if they're stand-ins or what. But nevertheless, what she finds behind the book is I'm assuming the engagement ring. So it's interesting that it's there. Why would it be there? So did she take it off before she died? I mean, once again, we know she died, but we don't really know the circumstances behind it. So. And because she was like, oh, I'm wondering if this is real, because I'm sure it's going back to that conversation with Yao Mei about whether or not the diamond that she had was like fake. It's what was it, zirconian or something like that, a zircon or something like that. Either way, I love that her and Kudo show up to work. Kujirai and Kudo show up to work, and they're both got bags under their eye because neither one of them slept. She's so busy reading the book, and for her, it's like she read volume 1 of 2, and she's like, there was no 2 at Kudirai's place, so like I need to go to a bookstore that sells Japanese books, so I need to know how this story ends. So Kudo takes her, and I love Yao Mei comes along, and she's like, what, I can't come along? He's like, dude, I didn't say anything. You just like, obviously, like, Yao Mei's in attack mode when it comes to Kujirai. I mean, when it comes to Kudo, I mean, she's protective of Kujirai, but like very like on the like she's like a attack dog when it comes to Kudo. But they go to a store, and lo and behold, Xiao Mei is working there. It's like, are you not Xiao Mei, Xiao is like, oh, you're working here too? She's like, yep. So they go to the Japanese book section, and she finds the book, but the problem is part of it is unreadable, and even Kudo is like, oh yeah, like I've read this book before, and it's like I could tell you who the culprit is, and she's like, just shut up, which is so interesting considering like I think there's almost a meta-ness to it, and maybe that meta-ness won't just be meta, it might be realistic and important. I mean, there's two ways to view that. It could be, like I said, well, three ways. It could be the meta thing of, oh, it's just because this series is a little bit of a mystery series, so it is kind of like, oh, there's something to that. Or it could be a thing of, oh, it's extra meta because it might not be meta, it might be foreshadowing because, like, whatever the truth is inside of that book might be reflective of what's going on in this series. Or three, not knowing the answer in the book is supposed to be reflective of the fact is you never fully get the answer in the show. Once again, I'm guessing there because like even the manga at the time of me recording this is still ongoing. I don't know whether it's even close to being done or not because obviously it's been going for a while, but I don't know like when it comes to the story like where it is in the manga or like if you even close. I mean, because this is labeled as like slice of life, so. I mean, some places are labeling it a slice of life, so a slice of life thing can go on for as long as you want to. I don't know too many mystery slice of lives, but maybe, you know, like I say, I've seen it labeled a slice of life, but I don't know if it's always labeled slice of life or whether it's considered slice of life. But I think it is when in retrospect, like looking at it in totality. But whatever the case may be, my point for that is like I don't know where it is in the grand schemes of the story and the mystery of it all. So, but either way, Kujirai is like, even if I can't read all the books, she's like, I will find a version of this book I can read so I can enjoy because I don't want the mystery ruined for me because she wants to like because he's like, oh yeah, the ending is boring, you know, which I like I said, it almost feels like that is a meta-ness for this story where it's like it's not going to be the answer you think it's going to be, and it might not be the most exciting answer, but it might even be a boring answer, but that boring answer is interesting. All right, it's just, you know, it becomes that conversation of it's not the destination, it's the journey type of situation. So like I said, it depends on the level of meta-ness that whole scene could be. Like that could be like a massive, in the grand scheme of things, like if you take the story from where it is right now, that might be a thing of, oh, when you look back, that was such a pivotal thing in the story, setting up kind of this very meta narrative going forward. Once again, I could be just heavily reading way too much into it, which I have a tendency to do, and over-analyze and over-examine something that isn't that deep. But I feel like in this state of what this story is, where everything does have such layered meanings to it, feels like even that has even deeper layers than you kind of might give it credit for at first glance. It might just be one of those things where retroactively later on in the story you're like, oh my god, that was crazy, you know, how deep and layered that is, and you know, now knowing the later parts of the story or the entire story in its totality. Either way, I'm going on my tangent. Kujirai also like picks out a world guidebook, and it turns out Kujirai B wanted to see places outside of Kowloon, and Kudo's like, yeah, that book's old, and information in it's outdated. And Yao Mei's like, okay, so we're still getting. He's like, fine, get the book. Like, I'm not saying you can't get it. So, I also love that we cut to Miyuki Hibinuma as he's going to, like, he has a TV appearance, and like Gwen's like maids are saying like, oh my god, Hibinuma, like he's changed like a little bit, like he's nicer and everything. Yeah, we think it's because of like your, like, we're happy for you, Mr. Gwen, and it's also because of your influence. And Gwen's kind of like, really, you think so? And then, you know, Hibinuma immediately throws that in the trash when he goes on TV and kind of has a very mean-spirited reaction. To be fair, the guy was named Mr. Sean. It's kind of a douchebag because Numa's talking to this woman. She's like, oh, I want to have a better expression. And he's like, well, we could do this surgically to your face. But then he also talks about it's also a state of mind thing because he's like, oh, do you love dogs? And she's like, oh, yeah. And she perks up. He's like, yeah, that's also something important too. But then it's like, oh yeah, your smile is beautiful. But this guy, Sean, was like super dismissive, being like, oh, it's easy for someone who comes from the background you do to kind of use words like beautiful. It's like, usually beautiful people are already just beautiful. So that comes a little easier. And so for you, someone coming, you know, an heir who had everything handed to you in life, it's easy to throw out such platitudes. It comes easy. Like, it's almost like, oh, the rich and powerful, placating someone, maybe like, oh, using the words like beautiful. But it's like, no, like, you know, you're just trying to placate us or whatever. And Hibinuma kicked him out of his chair, And they had to cut the commercial afterwards. But for Heavy Numa, it's like, okay, so you're saying I had everything handed to me. Even if I did, that doesn't mean I didn't have something taken away in the process. So we have Gwen watching it be like, oh, so what were you saying about Miyuki and it being nicer? And you had other people just being like, oh boy. And then you cut to our trio of Yaomei, Kujirai, and Kudo. And they're both like, oh boy, that's kind of crazy. But Yao Mei and Kujirai have this conversation about what does it mean to like have given everything what you lose in the process, and because it's like it's almost like this equivalent exchange, not necessarily equivalent exchange, but it's the balancing act of it. Like, oh, you've been given all this, but what is taken from you in a process? And from Yao Mei's perspective, it's self. She's like, when you were basically going down the road that someone else has paid for you, you basically lose who you could have been, your own future, your own independency, your own urgency as a person to kind of live your life your own way. That's all taken from you the moment someone like dictates for you. So saying like Hebi Numa, who knows who he could have been if he wasn't basically forced down the legacy that his father gave to him, you know? And so they also, before they leave, get offered these tickets to this like movie re-release. And the moment Yao Mei saw it, my immediate thought was, oh my God, is that you? Is that what you look like? Because she got super like, about it. Not too far off, but we find out it's related because I ignored the part where they said like, oh, this is an old movie being re-released. I mean, I caught that, but I still, the definition of old, but it's like, yeah, we find out that was her mom. And this was triggering for Yao Mei because she was like, no way, I don't want to go. And Kujirai saw the movie and she thought it was beautiful and everything. It's like, oh, and she talks to Yao Mei about it, not knowing how triggering and complicated this is. Even by the end of the episode, she still doesn't know that that's Yao Mei's mom because she doesn't want to talk about it. But like she's like, oh yeah, there's this fabric, there's this and that. She's like, oh, like this fabric you're about to pick up, like it turns out like the actress in that movie really liked it too. This is what, like I said, at this point I was still thinking like, oh, I didn't realize like it was Yao Mei's mom until we got to her saying like mom. I was like, oh, because I was, like I said, like that was just my misunderstanding. That was how I interpreted that initially. So when she's like, no, I like this, I thought it was a larger conversation. And it's still applicable, but there's an extra layer to it where I was like, oh, who she was in the past liked this, but she's like, no, I'm choosing to like this, not because the old me liked it, it's because I myself, as I am now, who I am now, the old me gone buried, this is me now, I like this, not because old me liked it. Well, we find out that where I say there's an extra layer to it because her mom kind of made her into her carbon copy. She could never, very much like the Hebi Numa conversation of yourself being taken from you. Basically, she wanted to be her own person, but to other people, herself and like even her mom all once saw her as like, oh, especially when her mom styled her hair the same way, put on earrings that would fit her stylistically. And everyone's like, oh my God, Yao Mei, you're so lucky to have a mom as fashionable as your mom. But it's like, yeah, her mom just made her a carbon copy. And it's like, your mom set you down this path of what she wanted you to be. And that's not what Yao Mei wanted. She's like, yeah, I'm happy like this. But she's also like, those other earrings, I really like them. But obviously mom knows best. She really thinks these look nice on me too. So she kind of, and once again, it is kind of like basically someone. And once again, this isn't just applicable to like a parental relationship. It can be even a relationship where you define so much of yourself by your relationship. I talk about that. Like I've had that issue in relationships where I just let that relationship fully define me. And it's kind of like that. Obviously, we're talking about like a parental relationship, but it's still applicable where like in, Yao Mei's case, it's like, oh, I let my parents, she still have parents, but it's mainly her mom. We have no idea like whether her dad was just not in the picture or was he not as in her like shifting who she was like her mom did. Because there's a deeper layer to that too, because you could look at it as like, okay, this is an older actress seeing like who she could be in her daughter, so she's trying to live vicariously through her daughter, making her daughter more like her, because then by extension, even when you're gone, your daughter will be around to continue to be. It's like a form of immortality, a very selfish immortality. Oh, I'm gonna make you like me, so you perpetuate and perpetual. God, what's the word I'm looking for? Perpetuate I don't know if that's the right word I'm meaning to use. That's the word that keeps coming to mind, but I don't know if that's the right word I'm looking for. But it's like, you're going to continue on my legacy in that way. I don't know if that's necessary her decision. It seems like such a like specific decision to kind of make your daughter look so much like you that it feels like it's too on purpose. But I'm like, it could be like you have blinders on where you're like, oh, I'm doing right by my daughter, not realizing you're making her a carbon copy of yourself. Or you thought like, oh, she admires it more, and my daughter love it because she'll do whatever I tell her, not realizing you're kind of making your daughter lose a sense of identity, a sense of self. And especially it's actually sad too when you see like the sequences with Yao Mei in her apartment, because she goes back to being like, she's seeing herself as who she used to be with her black hair, and it just feels like, oh, I've lost, like I built myself up to be this new Yao Mei, and like now it feels like I'm going back to who I used to be, even though I said that, oh, me is gone. Like, and especially it's kind of sad because the last thing she said to Kujirai is like, well, you don't remember your past, so you can't understand what I'm going through. You don't know what it's like to basically be drowned out by your past and feel like you thought you got away, but its shadow is forever looming and grabbing onto you. And it is something Kujirai can't really understand. She even says like, right, I can't understand what it means to kind of be grappled by a past or feeling nostalgic, considering like I don't really know my past. Because it's like she kind of knows her past, and not even her own past, but she's living kind of vicariously through Kujirai B, because like, you know, she wants to learn more about her, which even Yao Mei was like, don't do that. Like, you don't need to do that. But she's like, no, I want to. I want to understand Kujirai B more. And it's like, once again, are you doing that for your own purposes to, you know, try and like, you feel connected to her, but also you're like, right, I don't know you. Like, maybe knowing you will help me figure me out. You know, but then it kind of turns to that thing of, well, the more you learn about Kujirai B, it's like, well, how much of that's going to be a thing of, well, I want to be my own person, but the more you learn about her, the more you realize we are so similar. So where is me in all of this? But she's, you know, slowly discovering like the aspects of herself, just like the Kudo conversation again of, oh, he's making a face and I'm happy because I get to see it. It's only something I get to see. I want to see more of Kudo that no one else gets to see. Kujirai wanted to help Yao Mei through what she was going through, but didn't know, once again, she doesn't have much experience with this, so she didn't know how to help her, but she was thinking about all the conversations her and Yao Mei had, and so she talked to Kudo about it. Kudo was like, okay, here you are kind of overcomplicated things. Sometimes it's just as simple as, well, tell her what you're feeling and what you're thinking. And she talks to her, and because, you know, what Yao Mei's going through is she feels like, like when you look at me, like, what do you see? And Kujirai's like, I see the confident person who knows who they are and who they want to be. But it's like that confidence, she's like, it's not real. For Yao Mei, it's like, that confidence is not real. Who I am is not real. It's so fake. But Kujirai is like, yeah, but you know who you want to be. I think that's so important. And to me, like, knowing who you want to be, the ideal version you want to become, that in itself is not fake, you know? And even you told me about finding the beauty of the original in the fake, you know? Because it's the whole conversation about absolute self. Of like, I want to determine who I am. You know, I'm not going to let who I was in the past or the lack thereof a past define who I am. I'm going to figure out who I am. And I'm going to find that absolute version of me, that ideal version of myself. And that broke through to Yao Mei, and because it's like, oh, are you just going to toss that all away? They're like, did that mean nothing? It's like, no, it did. It did mean something. I am going to find my absolute self. So I thought that was kind of a beautiful thing. And then also they went shopping for earrings, and it's like, oh, like, which ones do you like? And she's like, what do I like? And it's like, she's like, these, I like these. And it's like, yeah, those look cute on you. And I love Kujirai seeing Kudo, and she turns to him. Luckily, Yao Mei's not near her at the time, but she points at him and is like, I like that. And I was like, there's something really adorable about it, being like, regardless of the Kujirai B of it all, I know how I feel, and I'm not feeling that way just because Kujirai B felt that way. I'm feeling that way because that's how I feel, and I like Kudo. You know, because it's like about figuring out this whole like her, Kujirai B, and Kudo pseudo love triangle that's kind of there, you know? It's kind of interesting being in a love triangle. I mean, well, it wouldn't be the first time. I was about to say, like, in storytelling where it's like, oh, you are in a love triangle with someone that's no longer there, that someone is gone. Like, if someone, you know, is widowed and you're that new person in their life, you could, if depending on where they are in their life, you could be like in a technical love triangle with someone that's not there. So that's why I was like, it's not like it's out of the realm of possibilities, you know? So But there's also the post-credit scene, which I noticed. I was like, oh, the episode's ending a little early. And I was like, oh, we must have quite the post-credits. And part of it was Kudo taking Kujirai B to the tea house the first time. And I'm assuming that's the Gwen we've met in episode 3 and we've been following since. I'm assuming that's that Gwen and not Gwen B. We'll refer to the people that aren't the versions of the characters we've come to know, like the Gwen from episode 1. I guess technically that's Gwen B, even though he's the one we got introduced first, so it kind of make the Gwen we're meeting episode 3 on as Gwen B. But potato is like he's the only Gwen that's around right now, just like Kujirai is the only Kujirai around, and the one that's going is Kujirai B. So I'll still probably delineate them. Even when I do say B, I'll still probably explain myself so it's not as confusing, because they don't differentiate. Because Kujirai, to everyone involved in our story, for the most part, is the only Kujirai. Because, I mean, that's a Yao Mei and her conversation, because they've never had that conversation with Kudo, because that'd probably be kind of complicated to have that conversation and reference his Kujirai as Kujirai B. But, so that naming convention only exists between them, because they don't know about the other versions of characters and stuff. So, because Kujirai thinks the Gwen she ran into in episode 3 is the same one she ran into in episode 1. But either way, like I said, the Gwen we met in episode 3, I think that's the one that we saw in the flashback and the post-credits scene when they first got to the tea house. And it's like, oh yeah, you are in love with this woman. Or at first he was like, no, you're in love with Kowloon, because Kujirai initially was like, yeah, I've never, when I first found out I was being relocated to places, like, really? Come on. But now it's like this place and its people, I've come to love it, even as noisy it is. I was like, yeah, I like it all. I was like, oh, you've come to love Kowloon. And then we have the last sequence where we have Gwen leaving, and we have Miyuki looking over him and his mates, Gwen's mates overlooking everything. And then he goes to Kowloon, and then we finally see Kowloon for what it really is, kind of this ruined city. So, back in episode 3, and I think I talked about it last episode as well, reiterating it, but my theory about what Kowloon's situation is, once again, is Final Fantasy X. It's the Xanarkin situation. And in this particular regard, I believe the generic Terra is essentially the fate in this parallel. So yeah, it's just a giant, because the generic Terra is supposed to be kind of in a form of immortality, and it's supposed to be kind of a way to keep all those memories alive and stuff. So the question then becomes, which Gwen is that? Is that the Gwen from episode 1 that popped up that we met at the tea house who disappeared? Or is that the one we've been following since episode 3? Even though they've been in Kowloon and seen everything. So I'm assuming that's Gwen B and Miyuki B, I think. So now the question is, because also that doesn't make any sense, because it's like, remember the old dude from last episode, when they called a version of himself to Kowloon, he disappeared the moment he entered in. So I think that's gotta be the Gwen we've been following since episode 3, but how did they get to this other version of Kowloon? How are they getting to the a generic Terra version potentially of Kowloon? How is that happening? Not less, it is still a different version. Maybe it's maybe we're dealing with we think maybe this isn't Gwen B and Miyuki B, maybe this is Gwen C and Miyuki C. I don't know. That's just I thought it's got to be this, but now I'm second guessing myself. I'm I don't fucking know. So every time you take a step forward, we're taking 2 steps back with this mystery of what the hell is going on. I'm still very interested to see where all this goes, where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.